when Professor Maurice Radebe took over as director of Wits Business School, last year he outlined a new strategy for the school. And we've been working over the past year as a school under his leadership, the EXCO, the steering committee, and the rest of the faculty and administrative staff at Wits Business School to evolve a new strategy for the Wits Business School, which seeks to position us as a globally competitive business school that is deeply rooted in Africa. Part of this strategy involves focusing on various strategic priorities. 12 strategic priorities have been identified. And for the purpose of today's discussion, we'll focus on one, which is about forging partnerships and managing stakeholders, both within the University of the Witwatersrand as well as outside the business school and Wits. And one of the key partners, strategic partners that we have identified is the Black Management Forum. The Black Management Forum is very important in terms of the role that it has played in this country over the decades since its inception to inculcate the culture of excellence amongst Black managers and to foster the development of capable, professional Black managers in our country. And we are very delighted today to have with us the leadership of the Black Management Forum, led by the president, the national president, Andile Nomlala. And Andile is here with the support of the Philippe, the FD, the managing director, who has been very active in ensuring that today's event becomes a success. And we're here to sign this memorandum of agreement, which outlines specific areas of collaboration between Wits Business School and the Black Management Forum. So this is the context I would like to give as part of this event, and I'll hand over now to Maurice, Professor Maurice Radebe, who's the director of our school, who's going to say a few words, and then be followed by Mr. Nomlala Andile, who will also say a few words before we get to the business of the day, which is the signing of the memorandum of agreement. Let me just say, for the benefit of those who are listening, who are watching, is that this memorandum of agreement focuses on three important areas, which I'm sure Maurice will also elaborate on. But the first one is aimed at expanding access, student access to Wits Business School by providing a bursary scheme to enable members of the Black Management Forum who are eligible, who qualify to study at Wits Business School, to take advantage of the bursary scheme, to participate in our PDBA program as well as in our MBA program. That is the first part of the partnership. The second part of the partnership has to do with ensuring that we enable members of the Black Management Forum and other aspiring managers to enroll at Wits Business School in our executive development programs with a specific focus on developing a leadership program that focuses on transformation and ethics. And the third element has to do with us co-hosting in collaboration with Black Management Forum as Wits Business School a series of master classes that will focus on the same theme of leadership and ethics. So with those words, I'll hand over to Professor Radebe to take us forward.
Thank you very much, Professor Mills, and I really appreciate all the work that you've been doing together with Philippe, MD of BMF, and I think these are the two guys that worked hard. They deserve a great round of applause. We are here because of them. Me and the president are going to sign, but the work is not done. And that's why when we're signing, they must come and witness to make sure we're signing the right thing. But let me ask a question, why BMF? Why did we as WBS found it really appropriate to enter into the strategic partnership with BMF? Number one, BMF has nurtured for decades a number of prominent leaders currently and many others that are not in the public domain. Just to mention a few of those that are in the public domain right now who are doing massive work for this country. Mrs. Nolita Fabute. Currently, she's the first female president of Minerals Council. Those who do not know Minerals Councils, its former name was Chamber of Mines. And that organization is extremely influential in the future and the direction of the mining industry in South Africa. And at the helm of that organization is a BMF leader. So that's the first one. The nurturing spirit, the nurturing atmosphere, the nurturing conducive environment it creates for a black manager who's young, growing in a very hostile environment, particularly as we know in our country with the legacy of apartheid. And that is very crucial for us. So nurturing. Number two, mentorship. And in here, I can speak along, but the chief mentor that I personally want to acknowledge here is Bralot. In our generation of leaders, he touched our lives. Many of us have been mentored by Bralot Ndlovu. May his soul rest in peace. But the person who really symbolized the mentorship of Bralot, who actually was the leader of BMF, is Mr. Mnyati Mteto. Mteto. Must be very careful about pronouncing this. He's an outgoing CEO of Ultra. He's written a book, Betting on a Ducky. And in that book, he specifically mentioned an incident where Bralot, I call him deliberately Bralot because there's an intimate connection with him, where he says to him, I'm giving you a chance here at Afros. You better not mess it. That was Bralot. He gave people chances through the institution and framework of BMF. So that's your second reason. Nurturing, mentorship. The technicalities, Brahmins has already mentioned that. But I just wanted to mention the key things that I personally, as a leader of business school, am passionate about. The third one, the partnership of WBS and BMF will strengthen the vision of the founding president of BMF, Mr. Eric Mafuna. And I'm glad that you've honored him by naming the house of BMF, Eric Mafuna House. His vision was very simple, developing managerial leadership. In other words, very carefully crafted words, managerial leaders, that's what we want to do. So that we debunk this myth of whether we're talking about managers or leaders. You know, there's lots of theory, talking about. No, we're talking about managerial leadership. In other words, develop leaders that can manage when they need to manage, and they can lead when they need to lead. And leaders that are competent, but even more importantly, ethical leaders. So, this partnership is going to make sure that vision of Mr. Eric Mafuna is continuously strengthened, institutionalized, and burdened so that my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren will still benefit from this vision that was espoused by Mr. Eric Mafuna. So thank you. We salute you, sir. Finally, Mr. President, you are following on the footsteps of giants. And these giants have fought for transformation of corporate South Africa. And these were gallant fighters for black leaders in corporate South Africa. And I know that you will continue with that legacy. You dare not fail. You cannot fail. Because you have to make sure that this legacy, all the generations to come, must benefit from it. So, I personally and Wits Business School wish you a prosperous and a blessed 2022. And for you personally, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay blessed. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Prof, for those kind words. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I must make a response to such kind words and maybe start with reflecting to the long history of how and why we're here at BMF, as what Professor was saying. I was nurtured and built in the academia space by Professor Wits.
Yes.
So, I'm not going to mention the story that he raised me at, because we're not about that. We're creating a new relationship, and I can see that there's recordings that are taking place.
Yeah.
But let me say that thanks, Prof, for coming along from where we come from together to start forging long-lasting relationships here in Wits and Johannesburg. And my right-hand man, Philip, we come a long way together from Western Cape, and we are in Joburg, and luckily enough, late last year in November 2021, I was given a second term by the members of the BMF. So it means that I'm now officially on my exit door, because in 2024, I must hand over the reins. BMF can only allow me to have 2 terms. But I want to reflect briefly on perhaps what does this mean to us as an organization. First of all, this is a historical moment about Ghana. We can't deny that. I can imagine that the forebears of BMF probably dreamt about this day, were an organization that they founded it under the clustering environment of apartheid South Africa, would one day be forming a long-lasting partnership of developing leaders and leaders that have managerial capabilities. And I think if we reflect back in 1976 and bring what was Wits in terms of its role in the center of being a forebear of trying to drive transformation, we know that a lot of the top black academics, a lot of access at some point was started between the Wits University, even the University of Natal, when it comes to giving access to black academics, giving access to black students. And that was a driver for us today to talk about a 45, 46-year-old BMF today. But I think what is important in that picture is the reason why we're here. And there's 3 pillars that have already been outlined. And I think the direct one of us having access to bring in some of our members to come and acquire knowledge and more so impart some of their skills. Because when we're talking about executive education, you're no longer just sucking in information, but you are actually being able to disperse your research and your knowledge about many pertinent issues in our country. Critical to it, I asked this question many years ago in the class, that how is it possible that the executive education doesn't reflect or doesn't touch, and even at some extent doesn't even have a visiting lecture program where we could teach about transformation? Which type of executive managers do you create that you don't reflect or you don't sort of engage them about the transformation trajectory of our country? And we know from the past the impact that universities, and particularly at the education and executive education level, we know the impact that they've made in driving the economy, in driving the thinking in the economy. And we can't forever forget now, when we read the Zondo Commission reports that are coming out, the importance of the critical mass of transformative-minded, ethical, grounded leaders in South Africa. And unfortunately, as the BMF, we are no longer engaged in a narrow agenda of looking at transformation in corporate South Africa alone. It seems like we have a bigger responsibility of looking at transformation in the South African broader society, whether we move forward with a capable and formidable, well-skilled, well-equipped leaders, or we then drown with the political cater deployment offerings that we get. And we see in the report of Zondo the consequences of us thinking that our only challenges are with the historical apartheid entrenched corporate South Africa. It seems like today our challenges are also backed by our very same own liberators. Then the responsibility of BMF needs to quickly shift with agility to ensure that we clearly agitate for a professionalized public service and we do away with cater deployment. We have issued many statements in that regard. As recently as last week, we had made a submission to the National Treasurer directly with the Minister of Finance and Deputy Minister of Finance and Director General Dondo Mokata to say that as the BMF, we call upon all companies who are implicated, whether they are yet to be prosecuted or not, but all the companies that are implicated in the state capture, I think it's necessary for a better future for them to put aside till their legal processes and matters unfold and are concluded. But for us to remain with companies that have been mired by the state capture in the parameters and in the tentacles of state procurement, it means that we are not yet serious about corruption. And as the BMF, we stand firm and wanting to demand that the big multinationals, by the way, that some of our colleagues have been defending, we are saying those big multinationals must be the first ones to be brought to book when it comes to state capture. Because we trusted them as the foreign direct investors, we trusted them as institutions that come from established democracies that wouldn't dare do the same behavior they did in their own jurisdictions, which is the UK and the US. But they managed to get into our country and pillage our state. And we don't believe that by virtue of just paying back the money justifies your exoneration. We want accountability, we want retribution, we want consequences for the actions that took place. The fact that monies were diverted for some time and people are paying interest and the monies themselves doesn't mean that the black people that could have received the services of that service delivery didn't get affected. The medicine didn't get to hospitals, the service delivery in communities didn't happen, and people die when the service delivery strikes. And people die when there's inadequate medication in hospitals. And people die when there's not enough doctors to help them. So we can't say by virtue of you paying back, it's justified. So with us and vets, we want to create an environment where we use this university with its heritage to be a voice of reason to our country. I think that's more important to us. We want to combine the brands and the visionary leadership that BMF has created over the years with the reputation and the skills capacity at vets. Whether we have to research what are the economic interventions that we need to make in the short to medium term to take South Africa out of the quagmire that it's in, that is the intention of our relationship. Our relationship is to go back to the founding fathers of BMF, where we use the arsenal at our disposal, whether it's the business school, whether it's the knowledge that comes out of it, to make sure that we become more impactful and demand and contribute to the direction of our country. There's no time for now for us to point fingers. Obviously, we'll be very vehement and very clear when we see glaring anomalies. But I think the bigger vision now to focus on being the problem solvers. I think the challenge in our country is that we spend a lot of time talking amongst each other, whether we agree or disagree, but at the end of the day, there's no one who says, after the talking, here is the direction that we take. So we want to use the capacity that we find in this school, and we'll deploy our own members to make sure that we capacitate them, so that when we argue and we ask for the solutions, we don't then say, when we're asked, where are the people, we look the other way. We need to say, here are the people, and use them. And by the time we get to another period, we know we meet with President Cyril. He has many challenges, especially at operational state capacity level. And it's unfortunate that we have to second even some of those leaders in the state institutions to be capacitated more, to be given more attitude change. That's the mindfulness that we want our people to have, is that they must be fully aware that it's service first before their personal gain. And if you take public office, you are there for nothing else but to serve the people. So that gives the BMF that opportunity, and we'll take it with both hands. We'll take it with both hands. We'll use this institution as a stepping stone. We'll use this institution as a catalyst to an agenda of change in our country. With those few words, thank you, and wish the vet school and the kids student and you, Maurice and the professors here, well endowed.